Seems like we're in good shape. Mics are working. We're clear. Yep. Okay, we're going to call this meeting of the Florida Historical Commission on February 20th to order. And let's begin with a roll call. Angie, do you want to go with that?
Yes, I'll do that. Cara, our normal roll caller, is out this morning. Rick Gonzalez. Michael Francis.
Present.
Kathleen Kaufman. Judy Bentz is excused. John Browning. David Hoyt.
Present.
John Phelps. Parker Destin.
Present.
Frank Terra Firma, also excused. Tony Cortez. All right, we have quorum.
Okay, terrific. Well, my name is Parker Destin. I am the vice chair, and so I will be serving as chair today since Dr. Bentz is not here. So I will do my best. This will be my first meeting I've ever tried to chair, and like I said, I'll do my best. Okay, we'll do introduction of the commission staff and guests, and to that end, why don't we start with the commission? We want to start at that end.
John Browning from Palatka, Florida. Work for the Goodman Company and serve on the Florida Transportation Commission, and enjoy being on this.
Tony Cortez. I live here in Tallahassee and work in political and fundraising consulting.
Kathleen Kaufman, Historic Preservation Officer, City of Gainesville, and also now teaching preservation policy at University of Florida. And thank you again to the staff for such an amazing teaching session that you gave the students yesterday. Really well done.
My name is Parker Destin. I run hospitality businesses in Northwest Florida, and I get to serve as a board member for the UWF Historic Trust.
John Phelps, now retired, formerly clerk of the House of Representatives and staff director of the Rules Committee in the Senate, and director of the Florida Historic Capitol Museum, and a member of the Board of Trustees at Eckerd College.
And online, I believe, Dr. Francis, if you want to give us your introduction.
Sure. I'm so sorry I'm not there with you in person. I wish I could, but I have a class that starts at 11. So I'm Michael Francis. I'm professor of history and Huff Family Endowed Chair of Florida Studies at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. And I also serve on the National Register Review Board. Great to be here.
Terrific. David Hoyt.
Hey, David Hoyt. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and I am the Executive Director of School Boards for Academic Excellence.
Terrific. Did we find out if Rick Gonzalez was going to be coming in, or if he's not there?
Rick is online.
Rick, if you can hear us, go ahead and give us your introduction.
Rick, you seem to be unmuted. Maybe an issue with your phone mic. You may go down to the mic panel and switch between none and then back to computer, and that may fix it. You may have to call in on a landline. But we're working on Rick right now.
That's okay. All right. Well, then moving on to staff. Ms. Lotane, if you want to start.
Hello, good morning. I am Alyssa Lotane. I'm Florida State Historic Preservation Officer and the Director of the Florida Division of Historical Resources.
Hi, I'm Angela Tomlinson. Angie, I am the Assistant Director. We have another Assistant Director, John Greenidge, who is not here today. And we also have, I'll just go ahead and say who's in the audience. We have Ruben Acosta, our Bureau Chief of Historic Preservation. We have our whole grant section came because they just wanted to sit in and participate. And we have Chinyere. She is our Executive or Administrative Assistant in the Director's Office as well. And John Morris, our Deputy General Counsel.
Okay, I think that gets just about everybody. So we're going to move on to item 3, which is the adoption of the agenda. What I'd like to do today is set up a little bit of structure in the agenda with regards to making sure that we have sufficient legal public comment opportunities. So to that extent, my suggestion would be that if we can get a motion to place a 3-minute opportunity for any members of the public to speak on this item before we vote, then subsequent to it, to make sure that we also have on our action item on number 4, a opportunity for public comment, and then also making sure that we have a 3-minute structure for public comment on item 11. If everybody is comfortable with that, I would enjoy a motion.
So moved.
Second, do we have discussion? Okay, seeing none, and since we are in the spirit of making sure that we are going to have public comment, I did see a member of the public who'd like to speak before we vote. So if I could invite you to come up, Ms. Tomlinson, I think he has 3 minutes. Or either podium, just make sure you, before you start speaking, hit the green button and then you'll be live.
Hi, just real quick for the adoption of the minutes, if I could get 4 minutes for that, since there was not previously a time frame set coming into the meeting to be aware of.
Ultimately, we have a lot of discretion. I think you're going to get 3 minutes right now, which you haven't used all of. You're going to get 3 minutes when we go into the next item, which I think you want 4 minutes. You'll have plenty of time to say what you need to say. Okay. Any further public comment before we vote on the adoption of the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
we didn't get a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
I believe we got a motion in a second, didn't we?
Oh, I thought that was for public comment being 3 minutes.
Fair enough. Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So, for the sake of making sure that we're being as thorough as possible, let's go now to an adoption of the agenda. I'll lean on any of the staff. Have we adopted the agenda, including the subdivisions of a comment? That was.
To adopt the 3 minutes.
Okay, I can, just to clarify, to get us, we had a motion for the 3 minutes from Mr. Phelps that was seconded by Tony Cortez, and we did have public comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify that, let's take a vote on that right now, because the second motion was for the agenda, and that was Mr. Cortez and Ms. Kaufman seconded, but we've only had 1 vote and 2 motions. So let's just clarify the votes, I think. The first one was on the 3 minutes.
First one was on 3 minutes. We have not yet voted on that. So now that we've got that, we've already got a motion. We have a second on making sure that we put the 3 minutes in. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, seeing none, motion passes. Okay, now we're going to move to item 4, approval of the minutes from November 7th, 2025. Excuse me?
Let's ask if y'all voted on the agenda. The last vote was on the agenda.
We did.
Yeah. The first vote was on the agenda.
That's right. We kind of did it flipped.
Yeah.
Okay, item 4, we're going to approve the minute. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from November 7th, 2025? Motion. We have a second. Any discussion from this board? So we're going to open it up for public comment. I believe we have a member, so you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Morris is just going to give you guys a handout real quick. Yeah, sure. So basically, it's a copy of the minutes with changes shown in bold and underlined on page 2 and the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4. I'm good. All right. Good morning. So there are some issues with the minutes as written that I would like to bring to your attention. Attorney General Opinion 8247 states that minutes are meant to be a
Mr.
brief.
Ream?
Yes, sir.
It was my fault. I'm brand new. I did have a good point brought up. I'm not going to take away any of your time, of course. Can you introduce your name and who you represent?
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah, so my name's Ethan Ream. Basically, I'm a fossil hunter. I've been coming to these meetings for about a year and a half. Born and raised here in Tallahassee. So Attorney General Opinion 8247 states that the minutes are meant to be a brief summary or series of brief notes or memoranda reflecting the events of the meetings. Thus, it doesn't need to be verbatim, but it must be written in a way that is properly reflective of material discussion that has or may affect decisions. So on page 2 of the minutes, Dr. Wilford's bar updates completely omits the occurrence of 8 minutes of discussion between commissioners in regards to the fossil permit program. Multiple members stated their desire to completely eliminate the program, and Commissioner Kaufman requested Dr. Mayar provide an update on looting / the fossil permit at this meeting. Further, Commissioner Phelps and Chair Bentz requested staff return with a report on the fossil permit program in order to eliminate it. As shown by the Attorney General's opinion, the discussion must be included given its possibility or likelihood to affect future decisions. On the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4, the public comment portion of the notes currently states, Ethan Ream was recognized to comment. He spoke about previous archaeological looting cases and in support of the state's fossil hunting program, which is managed by the University of Florida. He also alleged sunshine law violations at the meeting, which were rebutted. This is a strong misrepresentation that is legally incorrect. So first, I did not speak about random archaeological looting, but instead how DHR has weaponized ambiguities in Chapter 267 to hunt citizens. Archaeological looting cases in the context of previous bar program reports means something totally different. As I said, the minutes state that he alleged sunshine law violations, which were rebutted. I'm not sure yet who wrote or approved these notes, but the summary as it sits is misleading as it fails to convey the substance of the allegation, and the public cannot reasonably understand the nature of the claim. The use of the term rebutted is false, and I would argue illegal, as the definition of rebut is to claim or prove that evidence or an accusation is false. To the contrary, Commissioner Kaufman confirmed the conversation with Dr. Bentz did occur, and they were discussing the fossil permit program offline. The Sunshine Law Manual states, in order for a violation of FS 286.011 to be present, you need the following: a meeting to have occurred. There is no such thing as a simple pass you in the hallway, information gathering or sharing by 2 or more government officials, and the Attorney General's manual has held that any such innocuous meetings have been held to be illegal. Second, you need commission business to be discussed. It was confirmed twice by Commissioner Kaufman that such an innocuous meeting did occur on break, and that a known hot button topic, which was raised earlier in the meeting, was discussed offline because they knew I was going to push back during public comment. 30 seconds. Finally, you have intentionality. Although this is not necessary to violate the law, it is an aggravating factor. They were talking in hushed tones in an unused side room, and then Commissioner Kaufman told Chair Bentz to go in first, exiting the room about 30 seconds after Chair Bentz. Thus, obvious intent to hide their circumvention of the Sunshine Law. Neither lady rebutted my allegation of the discussion or Commissioner Kaufman's go in first comment. I'm currently not seeking any further accountability for the commission other than the minutes to properly reflect the discussions that occurred. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ream. Okay. So, do we have a phone going off somewhere?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Rick Gonzalez. My phone is finally working with the webinar.
Terrific. Welcome, Rick. Good to have you. Okay, so we just received public comment on approval of the minutes. Director Lotain or Mr. Morris, is there a way that we can take the recording that we have of all of our meetings and make it an official part of the minutes and make sure that it's available to the public, so that while the written minutes might not completely encompass every single part of our meeting, the public will have complete access to everything that's said here as long as it's incorporated as a part of the physical minutes. Is there a way that we can do that?
Yes, that's actually easily done, and we've actually done that in advance of this meeting because we knew there might be some conversation about the minutes. Jeremy, can you show that on the screen? I think you have a copy of it. Essentially, the link to the webinar, once the webinar is completed, becomes the link to the public recording. So what we did, for your consideration as well, is we've added the link to the heading of the minutes, which the ones that were sent out previously didn't have the link, with a note at the bottom that is a recording, audio visual recording can be accessed via that link.
Okay.
That you can see up there. So that would be, staff did that thinking that that's the easy way for everyone, the public and the commission included, to be able to link to the recording of the webinar.
Okay, well, we have oh, go Mr. Morse, go ahead.
Just to further weigh in on that, that's for consideration for the board, but you still also need to take minutes, an official recordation of the meeting. You still have to have minutes in addition to that, so it's still on the table.
Sure. So we have a motion. Mr. Cortez, go ahead.
Sure, I wasn't at last meeting, so I can't comment on what happened and didn't happen, but I trust the staff to summarize in the form of minutes. So I'd move for the adoption of we already have that a motion on the table, John?
No, I think we need to have a discussion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see who initiated the proposed changes? Were these initiated by you as written? I would like to have the commissioners who are referenced in these changes speak to them before we vote on the adoption. Particularly, well, Commissioner Benz is not here, but Commissioner Kaufman is here.
Go ahead.
Mr. Phelps, just to clarify, those minutes that you have in front of you that with the changes were not proposed by us.
I understand. I got that reference.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
Thanks, John. I did not discuss the fossil permit on the break. We weren't discussing anything that was up for a vote by this board. I don't really recall, but I could be wrong. I don't recall us requesting staff come back with recommendations on how to end the program. I don't recall that at all, and I don't think we voted on that.
Are these underlined? These are the additions, since I'm looking at item 7, 7A, and it seems that we have on page 2. Are those new additions from what we originally had?
I believe that is what Mr. Ream had proposed. That's not what staff proposed.
On page 2.
On page 2, the underline.
Yep. The underlined portion that's also bolded is the first recommended change.
Okay.
What is on the screen is what staff had proposed as a resolution, is to add, does not have the language that you're referencing, Mr. Dustin. We had just recommended that we could include a link to the recording so that anyone could click on that and get to the recording and hear the entire what transpired at the entire meeting. What you have in your hand is what Mr. Ream brought.
I see. Okay. All right. So what I've got right now as the chair is I have a motion to adopt what is proposed over here, including the official link, which would give a recording of the entire discussion that was obtained in at our November meeting as an official part of that.
Well, I would ask, maybe Mr. Cortez could clarify, were you proposing to adopt that version or the version that is in front?
Proposing to adopt the minutes as presented by staff.
Okay. Okay. So as proposed by staff with the official recording incorporated, and second still stands? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Ream? So I'm going a little bit out of procedural order by allowing the following questions. I don't really have a whole big problem. Mr. Morris, if you have already had that discussion, if you want to make to talk with him separately about your legal opinions about his issue, I mean, you can do that, or you can state it now, but if you don't have anything, I mean, we'll just move on. And Mr. Ream asked a question. He wasn't near the mic. If you can rephrase what he just asked.
I believe Mr. Ream asked whether or not the minutes have to be accurate as to the discussions that were held. I think ultimately it's the commission's responsibility with the Division of Historical Resources as staff to come up with a brief summary of the discussions that were had at the meeting. You'll all take a vote on whether or not the minutes accurately reflect what occurred at that meeting. It's not particularly, it's not a judicial determination as to whether or not those are accurate or not. They're the board's summary of the discussions that were had at the meeting. And I think including the verbatim transcript,
that's a backstop
recording as the official recordation of the meeting is helpful as well.
It's an idea of a guarantee that we might debate what is accurate, but there's the official recording. So that's what, if anybody wanted to debate, you lean on that.
Question, Mr. Chairman, if I may, of council. I believe in the past, it's been our practice primarily to focus on actions taken on which there was some kind of vote taken by the council, not discussions as such generally. And I believe that's been satisfactory to the commission up to now. Now, if you want to include discussions in the minutes, then you're setting a precedent now that I think would result in potentially voluminous minutes that would not really go to the question of the actions taken by the commission, which is our principal function.
Yeah, we'll certainly look at that.
I agree with that statement. I've been on this board for 18 years, and I'd hate to change the way we've been doing this when it's been working so well for the past 18 years.
And we'll certainly take that back and look at it. I don't believe the structure of the minutes has changed substantially. I know staff is the one that puts them together, but I believe we are required as a board to provide a brief summary of material conversations that occur at the meeting. But obviously it's not required to be a verbatim transcript, and certainly recording the votes that take place is, the principal responsibility. But I believe we are required to also include a brief summary of conversations that are had before the commission.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Hoyt.
Thank you. I would say certainly agree with all the recent comments that were made. I would also add that, as board members are, in my understanding, and I'll defer to anybody who understands parliamentary procedure and sunshine law better than I do, but we're not under no obligation to respond to public comments. I would encourage our fellow board members to refrain from recounting specific things that happened, especially in light of the fact that a sunshine point has been made. And, a summary of any conversations is only necessary, according to my understanding, for things that are discussed that are likely to, or that are going to come up for a vote. So I think the way that we've been doing it seems fine to me.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyt. Any other board members, commission members weighing in? So we have a motion, we have a second. Angie, any other comments before we vote?
Just could I ask who made the second on adopting the minutes as presented by staff? I missed that. John, thank you.
John, okay. All right. I don't see any further discussion, so let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. So, item 5, presentation of sunshine law and public comment. Legal counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, commissioners. So I don't know if I've ever given this presentation to y'all before. I typically do it once every year or once every few years before our various commissions and councils and bodies that the department has. For background, if I haven't met you before, I'm John Morris. I'm the Chief Deputy General Counsel here at the Department of State. My authority is over all the divisions except for elections. So I get DHR, I get arts and culture, corporations, and libraries. So lots of boards, councils, and public records issues that pop up. So just a refresher on Sunshine Law overview. We've given this presentation dozens of times over the last couple of years. So, Jeremy, let me see if I can make this. Jeremy, can you just make the one slide the whole screen? It's okay. We'll go ahead and we can start back at the beginning. No. Okay, there we go. All right. So Florida's Government in the Sunshine Law essentially provides two different requirements that I'm going to cover today. The first is that there be a right of access to governmental meetings. That's the open government responsibilities. But then there's also public right to records that are made by public bodies in the state of Florida. These are codified in our Constitution at Article 1, Section 24. The first one being subsection A relates to public records. That every person has a right to inspect or copy any public record made or received in connection with official business of the state. We deal with that every day in our office at the General Counsel's office down here. We provide public records when requested. Second is more pertinent to you all, which is paragraph B, which is that all meetings of collegial public bodies of the state government shall be open to the public. Meetings at which official acts are to be taken or which matters are to be transacted or discussed. So we've got public records, we've got open government. These are codified in our statutes. For what you all are particularly needing to know would be Chapter 286, which is relating to open government, public meetings. Codifies in law that meetings at which official acts are to be taken are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times. And we are required to take minutes of meetings at which official action occurs. Those are to be promptly recorded and then approved at the next meeting of the commission. Relating to open government meetings, we are required to provide reasonable notice of those meetings. The Division of Historical Resources provides that by publishing notice in the administrative register, not less than 7 days before the meeting occurs. So our staff handles that for you all. We are required to provide a reasonable opportunity to be heard, which we've already had this morning on matters that are to be discussed by the commission. We handle that via public comment in advance of items that are to be voted on by our commission. The scope of the Sunshine Law applies to advisory boards created pursuant to law, ordinance, or otherwise established by public agencies or officials. So you all are subject to Chapter 286 as a commission that's created by law. Some of the prohibitions that are included in the Sunshine Law, board members may not engage in private discussions regarding board business with each other, either in person, by telephone, email, texting, or other electronic communications. So if it's board business, if it's gonna come up before the board or reasonably come before the board, there should not be discussions outside of the sunshine on those matters. While an individual board member is not prohibited from discussing matters with our staff, we cannot be used as a liaison to communicate information between board members. So you can't say, hey, Alyssa, tell this person I want to do this. But we can certainly have individual discussions with commission members to ensure that the items that need to be brought before the commission are brought. Board is allowed to adopt reasonable rules and policies to ensure orderly conduct of meetings, but it does not allow the board to ban non-disruptive content. There are potential violations for violations of the open government requirements in Chapter 286. There are potential civil penalties, potential criminal penalties for knowing violations. Those are all contained in Chapter 286. The second part, which doesn't pop up very often for you all, but is certainly good to know, is the public records responsibilities. So this is codified in Chapter 119 of Florida statutes, and all records that are made by state agencies, state bodies, are open and accessible to the public unless there's an exemption or a confidentiality that's provided by statute. So this includes the records of private entities and boards that are working on behalf of an agency. Public records is very broadly defined. It's not just a piece of paper. It could be a video, a photograph, recording. All those are declared to be public records in the state of Florida, as long as it's made in connection with the transaction of official business by an agency. This also includes drafts of documents that are shared between agency employees. If a draft is shared between agency employees, it's disseminating information that's open for public inspection. It also includes emails or text messages that are created or received in the connection of agency business. And our office handles a lot of requests for emails, messages that are sent between state employees. It's the predominant way in which records are requested these days. Some other parameters relating to public records: a person who requests a public record is not required to show any particular reason why they're requesting it. There does not have to be a commercial or a non-commercial interest in it. They have the right to inspect and copy that record regardless of what their interest is. We are not allowed to require the inspector to identify themselves. A lot of times we get anonymous requests. And there is no specific time limit for providing public records, although it is a reasonable time to identify the records, identify any exempt information that may be contained on those records, and produce them to the requester. Similar to Chapter 286, there are potential violations and civil fines associated with violations of Chapter 119, which are set forth in Chapter 119. The most helpful resource, if you're ever interested in more on open government or public records, the Attorney General publishes their annual Open Government Sunshine Manual, which incorporates law changes, judicial decisions up to the year that they publish it. So it's a ever-evolving document. It's broken down into two sections. The first covers Chapter 286, open government. The last 3/4 of it is about public records, because there's a little bit more case law there. And so that's a good, helpful place if you're ever interested in some of the nuances about open government in Florida. And certainly as staff to the commission, if you all ever have any questions about responsibilities under Chapter 286, or if you receive a public records request under Chapter 119 relating to your work on the commission, you can communicate that to Alyssa, and you can send any questions our way down here at the Office of General Counsel. So, any questions?
Excuse me. Mistake that's been made. Counsel, I have seen the hard copy version of the Sunshine Digest, whatever it's called, from the Attorney General. Is that still published in hard copy at this point?
I believe they do publish it. I think.
Could you furnish a copy of that to each member of the commission so that we're sure we know where we stand?
I will look into that. I will reach out to the Attorney General's office and see if we can get some copies.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners' questions? All right, seeing none. Mr. Morris, thank you for that presentation. Okay, chairman's comments. I don't have any today. Good to see everybody. All right, director's comments. Director Lotane, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Get this where you can all hear me. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. And I first wanted to welcome back Tony Cortez to our Florida Historical Commission. newly reappointed after a brief absence. And we really value you and are happy that you're back here with us. And I wanted to recognize David Drysdale, who is rolling off the commission and who had been here for a term, and we really appreciate his service, and we'll be in touch with him to make sure that he's properly thanked and given that recognition. So I do want to mention that several of you have appointments that have expired. So if you are expired, if you're not sure if you're expired, please contact our office and find out what your dates are. And if you are expired, I've been asked that you reapply to the governor's office in order to be reappointed, because that's not something that runs through the Department of State. Well, actually, some of you are also appointed by the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. So if you're a person doing your appointment, if you think you're expired, definitely contact them and try to get reappointed to the commission if you wish to. So
I'm expired, by the way, Alyssa, but I have had a conversation with the President of the Senate.
okay.
We expect the letter to be coming.
Okay.
Reappointed.
Yeah, we look forward to that. If they need anything from us, please let us know. Next, I wanted to talk about America 250. If you have not been to the Capitol, to the 22nd floor to see our exhibit for America 250, that opened last month, and we're very proud of that. We had many staff that contributed from the Museum of Florida History, from the Director's Office, from the Conservation Lab, just all around the division to make that happen. And so we are very proud of that exhibit. Also, I've just returned. I'm going to ask Angie to help me a little bit later with the budget because I've just returned to town from some personal travel. And also I was in Key West when we unveiled the statue in Monroe County of President James Monroe last week, or maybe it's earlier this week on President's Day. So, so I was down there and had the privilege to be present at that unveiling, and we have more coming up in the coming year before July 4th. I will touch briefly on, because we were asked, I believe it was John Phelps who asked us last meeting, what your role is in the fossil permit program. And so I just want to read briefly the statute, that the commission shall serve in an advisory capacity to the director of the Division of Historical Resources to assist the director in carrying out the purposes, duties, and responsibilities of the division as specified in this chapter. And so as of now, we're not seeking any assistance or advice. This is a program that's run by the Florida Museum of Natural History. And so it's not something that we are pursuing. It's not a program that's run by the Division of Historical Resources. So that's sort of the only update that I have on that at this time. Unless you have any other questions on the subject. Yes, University of Florida's museums, not the one here in the R.A. Gray building under the Department of State. All right, thank you. And let's see, next, because this is probably of great interest, is the state budget. And so I'll ask Angie, since she's really dug into both the Senate and the House recommendations this past week while I've been gone, I'll ask her to update you.
I'll just go through the recommendations that came out end of last week and are starting to really, brew, and they're going to have to come to an agreement at some point, but I'll just go through briefly what the House and Senate offers were for just our division. The Senate was better, more favorable to us. I will start by saying neither included funding for the special category list, which I know that you all are deeply interested in, and I'll go through the rest of it as well. So I'll start with the Senate, which like I said, was more favorable. Did include funding for the small matching grant list, which we do have a 1.5 million recurring appropriation for small matching grants in the Land Acquisition Trust Fund. And the recommended list by the small matching review panel this year came in at just over 1.3 million. So that recurring 1.5 million covers that, but they did both include proviso language saying that they wanted that list to be funded. So they did acknowledge the small matching list. The Senate also included funding for the Abandoned African American Cemeteries Grant Program, which the House did not. There is not a separate line item for that program in the House budget, but there is in the Senate, and that ranked list, which is ranked by the Historic Cemeteries Program Advisory Council. The total requested amount was $446,000. So, but that's included in the Senate proposal. The Senate also included, just to talk about our general legislative budget request that we submitted, we did submit requests for increased base budget in expense and contracted services to help us with property maintenance and vehicle maintenance, because over the last few years, as you've been getting updates regularly from us, we have been doing a lot of construction work on our historic properties that we manage. We're also constructing the new artifact facility at Mission San Luis. And particularly when that one comes online, it is going to increase a lot of our expenditures and contracted services just for regular maintenance and utilities for that. So the Senate did pick those budget requests up, as well as a request for the Museum of Florida History for some offsite storage, expense dollars for offsite storage for some of the artifacts that belong to the Museum of Florida History collection. The Senate also included funding for the Knott House. We have included that. We manage that historic property here in Tallahassee. And we have, for the last several years, included a budget request for $1.3 million for the Knott House to do some upgrades to it. And Alyssa probably can speak to that more when she gives John's report later, if you have questions. But both the House and Senate did include that funding for the Knott House, $1.3 million. Sure.
Quick question. When you talk about the increased base budget amounts, will you say what that amount was that
Sure.
was in the Senate budget?
So it was
and what was requested?
Yeah, so it was two LBR issues, one for increased property maintenance funding, and one for increased vehicle maintenance funding, particularly because our underwater archaeologists have acquired a boat recently, a large boat for their underwater surveys, and also a couple of trucks that are going to need more maintenance. But the amounts are, and they're split again between expense dollars and contracted services, and they did give us the amount we requested. So for expense, the total amount that is showing in the Senate proposal is $250,000 more than our base budget from last year. That would be $130,000 for property maintenance. And that is for all of our properties, not just the artifact facility. $20,000 for vehicle maintenance and $100,000 for the museum storage, offsite museum storage. And then in contracted services, $55,000 for property maintenance and $30,000 for vehicle maintenance for service work on the vehicles and boat.
Could you, once again, Mr. Chairman, tell us what the special categories grants were in the Senate?
No funding for the list. There were line item member projects included. That was the next thing I was going to get to. Well, one other thing. The list that was ranked by the commission is not included in the proviso language or that line item. There are 6 member projects that are included in that line item that total $3.4 million, and that is line in the Senate, that is line 3304A. So, the Senate also included two of our additional facilities maintenance requests that we put in, $750,000 for re-roofing some of the reconstructed properties at Mission San Luis, and the additional $5.5 million to fund the construction of the conservation lab at the new artifact facility. And we've requested that the last few years as well. So again, that's the Senate, and the House did not include most of those things. The House did not include the additional base budget for property vehicle maintenance, or actually it wouldn't be, I don't know that it's base budget for the museum storage, but that's not in there in the houses either. The house did include small matching list, in the recurring 1.5. The house did include the not house, 1.3 million, did not include the special category list, but did include 8 member projects under the fixed capital outlay grants line for 1.9 million. So.
Dr. Tomlinson, do you have any sense of where the proposed museum, the Florida Museum of African American History stands? I saw an article probably a couple weeks ago where it had been discussed, like there was maybe some movement. I know that it sort of gets discussed, tossed around, because in theory it would be something to get tucked under if it was created under DHR.
Well, Alyssa might be able to speak more, but there are a couple of competing bills going through. I think the one that has made it through the most committee stops is the same one that came through last year but didn't get passed, to do the design and a little bit of the development on the front end in St. John's. And the funding for that in the current year, they gave some funding as a member project through a grant from Arts and Culture as a fixed capital project. So they are already doing some work on, I'm not sure who the actual grantee was. Was it the city or the foundation nonprofit?
I think I actually spoke with Howard Hawley when I was driving back here on Wednesday. And apparently the bill, they believe, will pass the Senate, but it has not moved in the House. So that was his concern. And yes, so there was $1 million. That
Last
was
year? Yeah.
$1 million for planning. And I think there had been some back and forth over whether the foundation was going to take it or the county was going to take it. And I think the foundation actually ended up signing it. Actually, Eric may know, or one of the grant staff may know which one that went to. But my understanding from Mr. Hawley is that it had been signed, or it was imminently going to be signed.
Yeah, and that's not managed, that grant's not managed by us, it's managed by Arts and Culture.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. It's the county, okay.
Okay, series of questions.
Great.
You mentioned, Dr. Tomlinson, 6 projects in the Senate, 8 in the House. Were those projects also on the recommended list? So none of those 14 were, or is there overlap between the 6 and the 8?
I don't think there was. When I looked at them, I didn't see any overlap.
I looked at it, I saw.
Yeah. The Lincoln Cemetery is in both. I haven't looked at that appropriation form, so I'm not sure what that project is, but I assume it's to restore a historic cemetery. That is on both. I think that might be the only one that Springfield Preservation and Revitalization Council is on both as well in different amounts. I'm not sure what county that's in, but it is in
Jacksonville, maybe Springfield.
Yeah.
So, and Alyssa, I've asked you this, so you know it's coming, but I wasn't here for the ranking of the projects on the special category grant list. What's the total number that are on that list? What would be the total amount to fund that? Do we know what we're asking for?
The recommended list, I did bring a copy. I try to anticipate questions. The list that was ranked by the commission totaled $21,053 projects.
I believe, Tony, while you were gone, we did bump it up from 500 cap to $1 million. Is that accurate? So that might explain a big jump in what you remember from the past.
Okay, and how many projects is that total? 53?
Wait a minute, I think I read the commission, I'm sorry, I pulled the wrong list. 23,055 projects were recommended by the commission. And I do believe Melissa Wiley from the Florida Trust is here, and she's also been advocating, they've been advocating for that list as well.
Okay. And can someone provide me the list prioritized 1 through 55?
Mm-hmm.
lot of times with the legislature, they're trying to determine, all right, if we put 10 million on there, how far does that get us down the list? And that's helpful.
We can email you that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, yeah. Angie, what was the total cost in either chamber's budget for those projects that were member projects?
The Senate's was 3.4 and the House member projects was 1.9, a little over 1.9 million.
I remember correctly, I think our first ranked one was $1 million by itself. Maybe it was the University of Tampa.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also that the increase to $1 million maximum award is down to Mr. Cortez, who was back on the council. He proposed that a couple of cycles ago. And so, yes, our minimum or maximum is up to $1 million now for the last couple of years. And it is the University of Tampa. Number one.
Hoffman, go ahead.
Also, Mr. Cortez, since you just came back on, this board had also recently prepared a letter talking about the disappointment in the no funding. And could we, we had revised that before it got sent out here during the public meeting. Could we just get a copy of what was actually sent?
Yeah, we can. I don't believe we sent it. I think Chair Bentz sent it.
Okay.
Vic Gonzalez.
I've never
his
really
hand
seen
raised.
the revised version of that, and probably you would like to see that too.
May I speak?
Mr. Gonzalez, go ahead.
Thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been on this board for a very long time. I just can't seem to be able to get off the board, and through 4 governors. And I'm really disappointed. The last time this happened, there was a reason for it. It was the small depression that we had in 2007, 8, and 9. And now, in probably the largest boom of economic development in the state of Florida in 100 years, we can't fund a single project 3 years in a row. This is disgraceful. It takes a lot of time to review these applications every September. To come back now a 3rd year with a recommendation of $0. It's very embarrassing when I get calls from small groups, from nonprofits, from small cities and towns asking, what do we do now? We were counting on this to get things done. And it's terrible. It's terrible. And by the way, the filters don't look good when you're giving millions of dollars to state properties in Tallahassee or private pet projects like it has been done in the past. Luckily, we don't have any $30 or $40 million requests at this time, but this is terrible. This looks very bad, and I'm not gonna review again a 4th time this year so that we can get 0 again next year. It's just not right. Something's got to change here.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Yeah, it's been a frustrating process. I will agree. If the legislature could fix some holes that they've got in the voucher program, maybe that might help cover some gaps and leave some money for other things. But that's for them to sort through that process, and we're just trying to make it through.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Eric, our grant supervisor, just handed me a note. One of the projects in both lists is on our ranked list. It's the Springfield preservation, and it is ranked at 38 on our list. And it is in both of those member projects.
Hey, Rick, it's Parker. May I make a request? Yes. Can you hit the mute button? Because we've got a lot of car noise coming through on your side. Thank you, sir. Hey, Dr. Thompson, you got anything else?
No, I think that.
Back to Alyssa, right? Hoffman, you have the floor.
John and Tony, in and those who have more experience in the process up to this point, since it's now come out that there's 0 appropriated so far? What is, at this point in the game, what is the likelihood of us, if we are out advocating for such, to be effective in changing that?
Tony, I don't know whether you would agree with my comment on this. A lot of creative things can get done in a conference, but when neither side comes out with anything in the budget, it's very difficult to reach agreement. Would you agree? Partially.
You know, I've seen a lot of things happen very quickly, so I wouldn't discount the possibility of additional funding. I will say this as a general comment and policy when advocating for this, for anyone advocating for it, is the process of having an independent board commission approve a list gives cover to the legislature, and it's something we need to encourage. So, you know, there's always going to be one-offs and things that are funded outside of the list because it's politics. But we want to encourage for the purposes of, you know, continuing to have trust in the process and having people apply for these things, and because they'll redirect their efforts to getting a member to file their project as a separate appropriation if the legislature continues down the path of funding one-offs rather than funding a portion of the list. So I think that by means of good government and processes, we do it for other things too. Like we were talking about the cultural grants, there's library grants, there's things that, so good government, we want to encourage people to apply to be on the list. The legislature, please fund the list, even if you can't fund it all, because it encourages people to go through a process where there's proper vetting rather than ask for things individually.
Okay. So I believe that concludes director's comments. So we're going to go to committee reports. That is going to be item 8A, and we have the Bureau of Archaeological Research updates. Director Lotane, I think you're gonna hit that one. All right, let's do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I forgot my glasses upstairs, so I'm gonna muddle through this as best as I can. All right, I'm not sure that's better, but I think I've got good notes here I can read. So first, I wanted to let you know the reason that I am giving the Bureau of Archaeological Research updates today is because we have actually moved the state archaeologist position into the director's office. And so Dr. Catherine Millar is still our state archaeologist and is still responsible for all of our human remains cases, but now she has her osteologist and NAGPRA person, which we were given by the legislature, I think it was a couple years ago. We got that position and are reanalyzing everything for NAGPRA. We've moved her into our director's office, and so she's directly supervising those folks. And we are now getting over 100 new human remains cases a year. And that doesn't mean we deal with them and we move on. That means we get 100 new ones added onto the ones that we were still working with the tribes on. So her primary responsibility, since she is a bioarchaeologist, we want to focus her efforts on doing that. And so there's nothing in statute that says that the state archaeologist has to be the bureau chief. So we are separating the bureau chief role into a different position. And so the bureau chief will actually have the responsibility of being more of a supervisory, more of a administrative position, for lack of a better analysis, and will oversee the underwater archaeologist, the public lands archaeologist, and the collections and conservation. So that position we have advertised and we have interviewed, and so we are just I've actually got the paperwork prepared, and we're planning to hire someone for that position in the next couple of weeks. So just wanted to update you as to that, and you may see a new face when your next meeting. As far as the sections of the Bureau of Archaeological Research, those are still the same. So for our underwater program, Dr. Ryan Duggins is still at the forefront there. We do have 2 staff vacancies that we're working to fill in that section, but we've really tried to focus more on our public assistance there. We still want to do our large projects, but we've been getting a lot of, I guess you'd say, informant contacts where sites are. So staff has been going out, in flat bottom boats and things like that to sort of check out sites like fish camps and other places that people have reported. So that's what they've been focused on right now, and we'll have some of the bigger projects that I'll update you on later in the year. For collections and conservation, you heard all about the new collections facility. We're still working on hopefully getting the conservation lab added on to that over at Mission San Luis. And I may have announced at the last meeting, Dr. Sam Wilford, who was head of collections and conservation, we have promoted him to be the director of the Museum of Florida History. So he is wonderful. If you have not met him, and he had a great hand in our exhibit that we did on the 22nd floor. And I do hope you can visit that if you haven't done that already. So we are now looking for a supervisor for the collections and conservation section as well. And we've advertised that, or it's going to come out just within the next few days. So if you know anybody that wants to apply for that or apply for an underwater archaeologist position, please send them our way. Something very exciting is we have been working with the National Archives in London on an exhibition that they're creating on pirates. And so we are planning to loan some of our very valuable artifacts to them. And that exhibit would happen next year. So stay tuned for that. We have received a very important donation of a silver cache recovered from the 1715 fleet, which includes 2 horseman medallions of a type that we have not had previously recorded. And conservation of these items has begun, and a portion of the donation will be in our new exhibit, in the plate fleet exhibit downstairs in the Museum of Florida History once we reopen. So that's been very exciting. I don't have the name of the gentleman here that donated it, but we definitely thank them for their efforts to get those to us, and want to recognize them, and they'll be on all the signage when we have that in the museum. The collections staff assisted, like I said, the museum in the 22nd floor. Let's see. Oh, the conservation staff downstairs had moved out temporarily. There were some repairs that had to be done downstairs, and so now they're back in working downstairs until we can hopefully get our new building built. And then for our public lands archaeology, back in December, public lands archaeology staff conducted the in-person archaeological resource management training, or ARM training. And this was the first time we had done that in over 5 years. Our ARM training is a 2-day introduction to archaeological resource stewardship and management for state land managers. The training aims to familiarize land managers with methods to protect cultural resources through compliance and review, different types of archaeological sites, and state laws relevant to Florida's archaeological resources. And our ARM training has shifted back to in-person. Back in 2020, we had shifted to a webinar, and we were really excited to have the first one take place here in Tallahassee. We had folks from Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation, or FWC. We had Florida Forest Service, the Florida Park Service, and other state agencies represented. And so we plan to continue those trainings as well. The public lands archaeology staff has also been visiting various state parks around the state. You all may or may not know that I am a member by statute. Our division director for historical resources is part of the Acquisition and Restoration Council. And so we vote on the Florida Forever projects and list every December. And so I'm very fortunate to have 2 staff in public lands archaeology that go around and visit those sites, and they're able to record new archaeological sites while they're doing that. So they've been very busy making those visits. Let's see. And in conjunction with Archaeology Month and Grove Day, the Public Lands Archaeology will be conducting a small-scale excavation of the grounds of the Grove Museum to test some hypotheses regarding the location of the original early 19th century residence. So pre Paul Collins' house. And also, I wanted to invite you this afternoon. John Grandage is not present today. I'll also be doing a very short construction update. John is actually over at the Grove right now conducting a couple of tours. And if you haven't had one of John Grandage's tours of the Grove, I highly recommend it. And I believe that is it 2 or 2:30 today? Do you remember? We'll find out for sure if you are able to go and go on that tour this afternoon before you return home at 2 or 2:30. Yes, go ahead.
And if anyone does want to go visit the 22nd floor exhibit, let us know, and Sam Wilford, the museum director, will take you up there after the meeting. But just let us know, and we'll get him. He's in the building.
Are there any questions? I think that's all I have to report for today.
Ms. Kaufman.
He's not here, but I still want to put it on the record that John Grandich did an unbelievable job yesterday at the Grove with giving the UF students a tour, and the knowledge that that man has in his head about that property is simply stunning. And once you get him started talking about materials, and they're graduate students in the preservation program, so he was right in his element, and they just had the best time. So I really, please extend our thanks to Mr. Grandich for that great tour.
Just wanted to let you all know today's tour is at 2:30. See you there.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you.
Okay. We're moving over to the Bureau of Historical Preservation. Ruben Acosta, you got the floor.
Hello, good morning, commissioners. So, good news coming out of Bureau of Historic Preservation for the first time since I've been in charge. Probably, I don't know, Alyssa, from when you ran the Bureau, we are fully staffed for the sections that report directly to me. So as of this week, Pauline up in our grant section was started this Tuesday. So we have a full grants staff, which is great. We have hundreds of millions of dollars that we are responsible for across multiple grant programs, not just the small matching and special category, but the African American Cultural Heritage grants and our remaining hurricane grants and our new cemeteries grants. So having a full staff of 6 will allow them to provide much better services to our grantees, follow up with them and assist them so that all of the projects are successful. So I'm super excited about that. And it was really good that she started this week, because yesterday we did host the students from the graduate program for historic preservation at the University of Florida here. And we did an introduction to the State Historic Preservation Office, and they got to learn about all of our roles. And then they sat in on our National Register Review Board meeting. So it was really cool, and Pauline was able to sit there and learn along with the rest of them. So it was great. Speaking of National Register, we did have our last meeting yesterday. It went quite well. We had some very interesting projects, including the review and approval of a multiple property document form for the Overtown neighborhood of Miami. So that's what it is a broad historical context that once it gets approved by the National Park Service, we'll be able to use to evaluate and contextualize properties associated with Overtown and its history. And hopefully that will unlock more doors for people seeking to identify, document, and preserve properties down there in that area of Overtown. We've also been finishing projects that started quite a while ago. So following Hurricane Irma, which was 9 years ago this September, the National Park Service, the federal government, gave us emergency HPF funds to help offset impacts by the hurricane on historic properties. And so part of those grants that we gave out, we subgranted them out to properties that needed the assistance, is that they had to update their National Register nominations. And we've been completing those. We had 2 from Key West for the Armory and for the West Martello Tower that were reviewed by the National Register Review Board yesterday. So that was really cool. And it helps illustrate how the National Register is a living program. It's not something that's one and done. And we want to encourage people to see those documents as living planning documents, not just histories written in stone, so that they continue to use them and update them, because time keeps marching forwards and we need to recognize those changes that have occurred. Otherwise, everything else is, thankfully, knock on wood, rolling along quite well. Our site file's working well. Our tax credit program is actually quite busy right now. We've had a lot of applications from Jacksonville area. So that's partly the result of an updated historic district nomination for downtown Jacksonville that has unlocked a lot of opportunities for people seeking to redevelop the commercial buildings downtown. And they're combining that with a lot of other incentives that exist at the local level. So that's great. Our Main Street program keeps going along. It continues to grow. We hit 60 communities, which, yes, 60 communities, which kind of blew my mind. Mostly from communities that are rejoining the program that used to be part of the program several years ago, and then they kind of fall off, and then they realize what the benefits are of Main Street, so they've come back into the fold, and we welcome them with open arms. And so that means that my staff has been traveling a lot, going out and doing tons of visits, and speaking with business owners and with local government officials to really encourage the growth of the program and providing the necessary training and outreach, so that the programs that, or the communities that participate in the program are really the strongest and best that we can manage. We have our Preservation on Main Street conference coming up this summer that will be held in Cocoa Village. And that's going to be really cool because one of our venues is Kennedy Space Center, where we'll be doing our signature event of the Secretary of State's awards at the Apollo Hall over there. So under the giant rockets, we'll be having our event. That'll be really cool. And we're going to be focusing on historic preservation, meaning economic development, all within that America 250 kind of framework. Speaking of which, we're also working on Historic Preservation Month. There's a lot of stuff that we are hoping to do for that month that is also associated with the semi-sesquicentennial. One of the things that we did is actually we went back to the bicentennial report that there was a commission that existed for 3 years in the state of Florida back in, that would have been 1973, 74 through 76. And they actually had their own grants program and everything. And what we did is we went through their final report and found all the people who got grants that funded preservation projects, and we'll be reaching out to them to see if they're doing anything to celebrate 50 years. Which one of the places is the Tallahassee Museum here, formerly the Junior Museum. They were established in 1976, and one of the big parts of their program was the collection of historic buildings from here in the Tallahassee area and bringing them together to preserve them and interpret them. And so that makes them one of the, those early attempts to collect and interpret our built environment in association with a significant national anniversary. So they're hitting 50 years. That means they're eligible for the National Register, and we hope to list them on the National Register this year. We're presenting a nomination of the property in May, so which is 100% appropriate. National Register, Historic Preservation Month. And I hope to be doing one of my tours downtown that month as well. And then the Florida Trust, Melissa Wiley was here earlier. They're going to be holding their preservation conference in May as well. The other big thing that I hope to be making more progress on is that this year we are starting our process for the statewide historic preservation plan. So we'll be doing some outreach and collecting information and really looking to update our plans for the next 5 to 7 years. So that's a process. So don't be surprised if you all get an email forwarded from Cara, from me, asking, hey, are you guys doing any preservation activities within your fields or within your communities and stuff? If you'd like to share them with us so that we can then promote them in our Historic Preservation Month press release, that would be awesome. And also, to invite you all to participate in our preservation planning activities. That's basically it for the Bureau of Historic Preservation. I'm glad to answer any questions, or, respond to any comments.
Commissioner,
I have a question.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, I was wondering, Ruben, thank you for the report, by the way. Why did we separate from the Florida Trust? And why do we now have two conferences, which means two sponsorships, which means two series of lectures and so forth and attendance, when last year's combined joint conference in Fernandina Beach was the best one I've ever been to? I'm just dumbfounded. Why the split?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I'll let Alyssa speak to that question.
Mr. Chair. Hi, Rick. It's Alyssa. All I can say is that was initiated by the Florida Trust. We were fine continuing as we were, but they felt that, I don't know, our dates had also been different than theirs originally. I don't know if that had any impact, but it was not from our end. We still have a great relationship with the Florida Trust, and if I can, I plan to attend their conference as well. So I think that's maybe a question for them.
All right, I guess I'll ask them. Very disappointing though. What a shame.
But we do hope everyone will still attend the Florida Main Street Preservation on Main Street Conference. Ruben, can you tell us what those dates are again?
Oh, they are in July.
I may have them in mind.
I have to consult the little black boxes of knowledge.
I'm sure everybody can mark their calendars for that.
Calendar, it is in July.
Kathy were here, she would tell us, right?
Oh, yes, she would know immediately. All right, if I recall correctly, it is the week of July 20th to the 24th. The actual days of the conference will be Tuesday, the 21st through Friday, the 24th. So we'll start late on Tuesday to allow people to drive in that morning and stuff. And then we'll have sessions on the 22nd and 23rd. And then we'll be wrapping up with tours and our other big events on Friday morning. So that way people can travel and check out Cocoa and visit Cocoa Beach and, spend time in our Main Street districts and stuff. And it'll be a good session over there.
And we're really excited about our awards this year. Our awards are going to be America 250 focused for events that our Main Street organizations have had going for that purpose. And our awards dinner will be at NASA. So that's going to be a really amazing event. We invite you all and we'll get you more information on that. We have it.
Yes.
Terrific. Any other commission members have questions before we move on? Okay. Mr. Costa, thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Okay. Outreach and construction updates by John Grandage, who is at the Grove. So I believe that falls back to you, Director Lotane.
Thank you very much. I will fill in. I don't have a PowerPoint and fancy photos like John always has, but I promise next time we'll have those for you. And we'll also have a lot more to update you on, and maybe even a tour. I will say, you heard about the Knott House earlier. We are hopeful that we'll get the funding for the Knott House, but at this point it is sort of just mothballed until we can get in there and do the lead abatement. Except staff is packing up. If you've ever been to the Knott House, it's got quite a bit of things. It's set up, it's got a historic kitchen, it's got a historic dining room, it's got bookshelves and bookshelves of items. So staff has been packing those up in anticipation of the renovation there. I'm really excited about Brokaw McDougal House. If you don't know Brokaw McDougal, it's over sort of behind Leon High School. And we have been, if you look at it right now, it does look a little rough. It's had some lead abatement on the outside and has some primer on it. It has all the windows boarded up because the windows are all under restoration. We have folks that have come and taken the windows out. We have completely rewired the entire house, even found some more knob and tube in the process that we thought had been removed, and there was old cloth wire, so it'll be really great now that we've got all new electrical. And in that process, we did have to remove pretty much all of the plaster. But I do have good news that we're going back. A lot of it was cracked. We're going back with the same product. So our subcontractor on that is Old World, which has received awards for their plaster. And they're kind of excited, I think, because they normally get to do repairs. They don't need to come in and do like an entire housework worth of plastering. So once we have that moving, I hope to get you in and be able to actually watch that occurring. Do you have a question, Mr. Phelps? No. And then I'm also excited that the Messer House over at Mission San Luis is moving again. We had to change contractors on that project. So now we have a really great contractor that has signed on, and we've now begun to move on that again. That's going to be a little less invasive of a restoration. A lot of that is cleaning and painting and installing new fixtures. And we have an ADA restroom that will be going in, and that will ultimately be our wedding bridal venue for the brides to get ready. And we'll work through the CSO to use that venue as sort of an upgraded experience for the weddings that we have out at Mission San Luis. And we're still working at the buildings over at the Governor Martin House. We have the Carriage House, the Merritt Drive, which is kind of a 1960s building. We're starting to work on the lead abatement at those as well. But those will be more of a staff offices and staff usage. Are there any questions? That's my update.
Well, thank you for that update. All right, I believe we are on our final committee report, grants program updates. Dr. Tomlinson.
This will be brief because we already talked about the budget. We're grants, as Ruben said, we're at full staff right now. We had we had a new person start this week and one started last month, I think. So we're at full staff and we hope to get special category grants again, but we are really busy anyway, because as Ruben said, we have multiple programs that we manage other than small matching and special category. We're actually hosting the Park Service next week. Their Inspector General is auditing the Hurricane Michael grant, not our part of it, they're auditing the Park Service, but they wanted to do site visits. So our staff will be going out and visiting some Hurricane Michael projects that are in the Panhandle, which is where those were all focused. I wanted to remind everyone that at the last meeting, and this is particularly for Mr. Cortez because he wasn't there, the next meeting dates for the next round of special category applications is September 29th and 30th, which is a Tuesday and a Wednesday. All of our application cycles open every year on April 1st and close June 1st. So we'll start to do outreach, we're getting the word out about that because that's coming up. And we'll be having the cycles. Now we have 3 every year, including the cemetery program. We do small matching, special category, and the abandoned African-American cemeteries grant cycles at the same time. So April 1st to June 1st. And then once we get those in, then all summer staff will be reviewing those applications. We'll be getting them out to the panels for review and scheduling those meetings as well. Usually we do the small matching usually in August. We haven't set that date yet. And the Cemeteries Advisory Council will probably be right around that time, and then special category FHC meeting in the end of September. The last thing is we're doing as we do every year, our annual rule update. There are no major changes this year. We just sort of used it this year to clarify some things like match documentation requirement, things like that don't necessarily affect your review. They're more for our review. So that's going on right now. General Counsel's office will be initiating that rule development in the next couple of weeks. So, but we do that every year this time. So, and that's really grants. I mean, the main thing is the budget. We're waiting and see what happens with that. So.
Mr. Phelps, do you have some?
I would just like to make an observation at this point, nothing in the way of a recommendation, but perhaps to get some of the commissioners thinking about the situation we find ourselves in with respect to special category grants. I think there have been ideas put forward from time to time in the past about how to connect with legislators on this project. And one of the ideas was to directly inform legislators of the projects that have been underway in their districts and how how they're doing, just kind of keep them up to speed on that. Another idea that's been suggested is some kind of a presentation that can be made available to their offices concerning historic projects that are in their districts, or historical programs otherwise. Just something they could put in perhaps in their office as an exhibit for them to walk by every day as they come into the office. I think those kinds of things might begin to raise our visibility with the people who make these decisions. And I think it's time for us to be thinking strategically about where we are and what we might do to improve our prospects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that's a great comment. You know, Mr. Browning?
Yes, this will be the second going into the third year of this. We need to consider taking the grants we've already approved and presenting them again, just like they are. There's no use going through this process and making the people think that we have a better chance this year of getting the money, and all those that have put in all that work. The grants that we've suggested have been vetted, approved, in order, ranked, and I don't think we should do any more in that program until we get a resolution of it. Take the ones we have, as you've seen many times in bills. Here comes that bill again, but at least we would have something to talk to them about early. By the time we go through the process, we get them right, we find out which ones are good. The session's already started. We're behind. We're never going to catch up like this. I think, as for me, consider for the special category grant, present what we've already got. Present it early, and then we present it to the legislators.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, to elaborate to some extent on the same point, with the legislature changing when it convenes, it makes it particularly difficult for us to present our proposals, because when in the even numbered years, when the legislature comes back in January, by that time our projects may very well be beyond the point where the budget can even accommodate I will say, in defense of the legislature, sort of, it was not the legislature in the first instance of these 3 years. The governor vetoed the budget line for us. It was in the second and third year, current year, that it was the legislature that left. It was in the budget at some point, I believe, last year, and the conference dropped it. So we're not totally out of the picture as far as these matters are concerned, but I think we need to be thinking about how we can improve our prospects.
One thing, I think when we do the grants, we should look at each grant and who is the senator and the representative in that grant, and send that to them. Let them be aware that in their district, these grants are put up. Right now, we don't do that. And then they will get interested in them and promote them. But we don't have the gap that, as you know, we need. And I think you could do that. That might be helpful.
Ms. Kaufman?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the Florida Trust, but the Florida Trust has been doing that. Or right at the beginning of session, they created a folder, if you will, with a booklet that tells every legislator what projects are in their district. But I don't believe they go back to tell them which ones are ongoing. But I mean, I wish we could do even more, and we need to do more than just depend on the Florida Trust. But I do know that they have been actively going to the legislators, especially the ones on certain committees, and the ones, and especially the ones that are like the top 10 in the ranking.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Okay. Well, Exactly, and that's good. But let's face it, when they're home, they're not in session. That's when their constituents are promoting. Not us, we don't have to, they're promoting them. But we need them before they come up here. By the time they get here, it's over. They already have had months of talking with their constituents. They know these projects they want. They're going to know the special projects, and they're going to be working with the speaker or working with the president of the Senate. I just think that if we could get them to them months in advance, what do you think? You've done this for years. You have.
I think it's a good point. I don't necessarily know that it's knowledge that's, if they just had more information, they'd make a good decision. I think it's personal connection to the project. So I almost think rather than making sure they've got information on what we've approved, it's almost a little bit part of the grant approval process, because the people that bring the grants here, we give them blessing. There's got to be a component of who in your community, if this project's in Ocala, you need to bring it to these people who are in the legislature, make sure it's on their radar, talk about how important it is. A lot of times these projects have community backing and have been, either the elected official from that area is aware of that project, or they're driven by it, or they know someone who's on the nonprofit board that's raising money to restore it. So it's really getting the people, like you say, that are in the district that they're going to run into at the grocery store to say, hey, when I see you in the grocery store, this is important. Make sure you talk to the appropriations chair.
I think it's interesting that when you look at the list, the common thread seems to be that the ones that come from the major metro areas tend to have some decent funding behind them. And when we see, I think as this board, a substantial amount of, let's call it credibility and horsepower behind an applicant's bona fides and the application itself, we tend to rank it higher. I don't think there's any surprise that the University of Tampa's is at the top of the list, because we looked at the application. But it's smack dab in the middle of the heart of Tampa, which is arguably the second largest and most powerful delegation block in the legislature. I would hope that the project would be, since it's ranked number one, on the radar of the Tampa delegation in the Senate and the House. But I don't think you can presume that, which is sort of wild. But given the fact that a good chunk of our applicants are coming from the largest and most powerful and influential areas of the legislature, would incentivize that, if they knew, to be able to fund the list, because they're high up and ranked near the beginning of it, and in theory would be funded if appropriated. But a part of me thinks that it's not guaranteed, because I don't even know if the University of Tampa, who made the application, knows that they need to also go after this process, turn around and then advocate zealously through their own delegates to fund the list, because there could be the presumption that, well, we went through when we got ranked, but they don't know the second half, which is if the list doesn't get funded, it doesn't matter where you fall in the rankings. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I just went to a meeting last night. State rep got up and said, look at what I've got. It was for a group from a particular county. Look at the things that I've got. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to say, I've worked for you, I've got them. And the way these grants go to them, it's not theirs. They have no kinship to it. They already get up there with a list more than they can get anyway. If they got a big list, we just need to get it, let them buy in. Do you want these? Because if they don't want them, it's not gonna happen. If a senator rep doesn't want one of these projects, he ain't gonna do it. He's just not gonna push it. So, I mean, that's evolved. It wasn't always like that, but it's evolved that way. And so we're gonna have, I think, change however you wanna do it. They've got to buy in that they like these projects that are presented, because they don't go by our list, by the way. If they like one of them and he's in the right place, he picks them out of the middle, and that one gets and the others don't. So I just don't want us to go. It's a lot of work to do it. And the people get dropped off. That just somehow bothers me. The people they've done all the work, they've passed, we've ranked them. the next year, well, we're gonna start over. You didn't get it this year, you're not at the top anymore, you're just in the middle, does that make sense? I don't know. Gotta be a better way to improve getting them passed by the legislature.
Mr. Phelps, any other?
I would only say, just repeating the history of the commission itself, which we can't do often enough, it seems to me, came into being because legislators were proposing individual projects to the leadership, and those were proliferating at such an extent that leadership didn't want to have to sort them out. They wanted to have a process by which they would be evaluated before they moved forward on them. And the project-based appropriation system that's now in place, and I guess it's been around for what, about 10 years now, Tony? Something like that, maybe a little longer than that, has shortcut that process that we were originally that process was supposed to be fulfilled by this commission. So I'm not sure how to approach that question. It's just the way things are, and we have to deal with whatever strategy it takes to deal with it.
Well, I know that we tacked that on to the end of your report. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I didn't have anything else. And I just wanted to say this sort of conversation came up last time, and Mr. Phelps had recommended trying to create some kind of, like what you said earlier. And we have talked about how we can do that with the existing databases that we maintain. So look for more in the future, maybe like a website that has like, the easiest way to get it out is like a website or maybe something small printed, but we would have to go through the trust for that to hand it out. But we're going to try and do better with the outreach of projects that have been completed.
Dr. Tomlinson, just so maybe to put a finer point on this one, to move us along, but is there any mechanism right now that encourages, does staff, is there any communication that comes from DHR that after the ranked list comes out that says to all the applicants that have successfully been ranked, go talk to your delegates?
Let me just speak to that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's very difficult for us to be the advocacy piece, and that's why we rely on the trust so heavily. I think they do make that effort. You know, I know staff, when we're on the phone with people, we say, you know, this is not the final thing. You still, you know, you need to speak with your legislator. You need to speak with them when they're at home. I do think that there's a false sense that people get when they're in the top 10 or top 15, that they think that they're just going to get funded, and that we've had people that have called and been very surprised when they found out that they didn't get their grant. So, you know, we do the best we can, but there is a line between us and the legislature, and we have to rely on the trust to be that part.
Mr. Phelps?
Angie, did I understand you correctly that you were considering a site or a page on the website that would demonstrate to a casual observer where these projects are located?
Yeah, we talked about that after the last meeting. We had some, but then it was the holidays and you know, et cetera, et cetera. But it's on our radar to maybe figure out the best way, because we track all the projects, you know, but it's in databases and things that aren't user friendly. So like, how can we get those on a website or somewhere where people can, and that requires a little bit of like, you know, figuring out how to do that and IT and things like that. But it's on our radar to try and keep moving forward with that.
Would it be difficult to include in that presentation on the website the legislative districts that were covered by that?
I think that would be the goal, is to show like where things are located in the state, things that have successfully completed and where they are, and be able to sort of cross-reference that. So, but you know, we're working on it. So hopefully we can get something this year.
Just one more thing. And Mr. Browning, just to speak to your point about rolling the list over, I think, you know, past commissions had not been in favor of doing that. We're happy to do whatever the commission feels is the most appropriate thing. I do expect there would be some level where staff would need to reach back out to them and let them know that they were rolling over, find out if the project is still viable, you know, if they still have their match, that sort of thing. We've done that in the past. So just whatever the commission feels is the most appropriate thing.
Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this rollover process has inherent complexities for at the staff level, particularly when it comes to budgeting questions. And so that would be something that would have to be resolved, wouldn't it, in the connection with those communications?
Yeah, usually we do sort of an abbreviated application that we have them go back and fill out something to find out if they still have their match and if maybe they've completed part of the project or all of the project with other funding, sort of not reorganize, but you know, if we need to pull something off or reduce an amount, we have done that.
And projects could have completely changed as well. Like maybe they already did the work or a priority change because the roof blew off in a storm, you know, things like that. So it's hard to just roll it over without getting additional information from the grantees, which then y'all would need to kind of maybe even look at. So
I was thinking, I believe our meeting got delayed last year for some reason and wasn't until maybe October.
Storm.
And we had an early session this year, so that it was compressed for that reason a little bit.
Okay. Ms. Tomlinson, thank you for that report. We're going to move on to business items.
Hold on just a second before you proceed.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to let you know that Rick Gonzalez has left the meeting, and Dr. Francis has also left. Dr. Francis had a class at 11.
Okay, so Rick Gonzalez is gone, and so is Michael Francis.
But Mr. Hoyt is still on the phone.
Mr. Hoyt is still online.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
So we still have quorum.
Well, and I don't think we have any action items remaining, so we can just probably carry on with, even if we've got a stub of a commission. So we got a quorum, we're in good shape. Okay, and we're on the final stretch here. Okay, business items. Dr. Benz, I don't have anything. Can you just read, for my sake or anybody else, the next National Register meeting and business meeting?
It's actually in
the dates.
Hold on, I can pull that up. Yeah, look up. Okay. The next National Register and FHC is May 7th and 8th. So the National Register would be the 7th, FHC would be the 8th. August 6th and 7th, and November 5th and 6th, with special category as a standalone meeting. And
we had
the 29th and 30th.
Can you read the August meeting?
Yep, August 6th and 7th, 6 and 7.
Terrific. Okay. Any commissioners? This is kind of like your commissioner moment. Anybody got anything they want to add in person? Okay.
Mr. Francis left us a quick message.
Yeah. Could you read that for Mr. Francis?
Sure, absolutely. He wanted to share that he's been working with the Irish Consulate in Miami to curate a temporary exhibition on the history of the Irish diaspora in colonial St. Augustine in East Florida. The exhibition will be open and free to the public March 9th, 2026, and will be hosted by the Visitor Information Center. The exhibition will run until April 30th, after which time around the state and the country, there will be a special opening ceremony on March 8th at the St. Augustine Visitors Information Center. Please feel free to reach out to him if you'd like to attend the March 8th event, or if you'd like more information. He left his email, and we can give that to you. To read.
Terrific. Thank you for that. Mr. Hoyt, do you have any?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. So we are now at section 11, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none.
Raised, I have a hand online.
Hold on. Okay, so let's move to online.
I have a Mr. Tony Lowell. Lowell, excuse me. Uh, your mic is active. You should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
Mr. Lowell?
Go ahead and click the mic button at the bottom of your screen.
Okay. Mr. Lowell comes through. We'll try to get him in. Oh,
Where'd you go? Come on back. Where'd you go? Mr. Lowell?
Hi. Hello?
There you are.
Hey, can you hear me now?
we can hear you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'd like to ask for clarification regarding the operational status of the Museum of Florida History. The museum has been closed for nearly 4 years. Both legislative chambers declined to fund the $10 million renovation request again this session. Plaza renovations are reportedly scheduled to conclude this year. Based on those facts, I have several specific questions. First, does the division currently have a firm projected reopening date? Second, since funding is not secured this year, what is the contingency plan for reopening in a limited, phased, or interim capacity? Third, if no projected reopening date exists and no contingency plan is in place, should the public understand that the state's primary history museum may remain closed through the America 250 commemoration? Fourth, at what point does a temporary closure transition into what is functionally a long-term shutdown? From a governance perspective, prolonged closure without a defined reopening timeline represents an ongoing service interruption. What performance benchmarks, internal deadlines, or accountability measures are currently in place to resolve that interruption? And finally, who within the division has direct responsibility for delivering a reopening plan, and what measurable timeline should the public use to evaluate progress? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lowell. Director Lotane, I think you may have gotten most of those. I don't know if you can answer all of them in this meeting. Is there a way that you might be able to, if Mr. Lowell can communicate with a way to reach back out to him to get those answers? But to the extent you've got any of those answers right now, can you want to take a stab?
Sure. I did try to write down all of them. I can't answer all of those at this time. Some of those are actually decisions that are beyond my control, beyond my decision making. But I can say we don't have a firm reopening date. And as far as the 10 million goes, it's not in the budget right now. We were hoping that it would be. And so that's something that we're newly learning. So that's a discussion that we need to continue to have. But I do know that the plan is that if we're not funded, we are looking at a potential phased reopening and sort of refurbishing exhibits through our staff, our current staff fabrication office. Let's see. As far as other things that we haven't going on in the meantime, we do have other exhibits. I mentioned earlier, we have the exhibit that was created on the 22nd floor. We continue to have tours and other exhibits at the Grove Museum, Mission San Luis. We're also working on a refurbishment there of that exhibit. And we've got just various other educational opportunities. We do once a month, we do the, gosh, I'm blanking now, the noon history at high noon is what I'm trying to think of. So there are various other programs that we have going on to try to keep the museum going and replace some of that. I understand it's really disappointing for people that the museum has been closed for so long. And as you can see out front, anybody that's here today, the plaza is well under renovation and is scheduled to be finished by the end of this year. So we do hope to open at some capacity as we can. And if you have any other questions, Mr. Lowell, feel free to reach out to me. Jeremy, if you want to private message him my email address through the system, you can email me and I can try to answer those as best as I can.
Thank you, Director Lotane. Do we have anybody else for public comment online?
If you're online and wish to make public comment, please raise your hand. Currently see no hands raised.
In that case, we'll go in person. Mr. Ream, I think you're up.
All right. So earlier in the meeting, Commissioner Kaufman said, I don't recall us recommending to eliminate the fossil program. So I went back and I listened with my AirPods to the meeting to give you guys some context to what took place. So Commissioner Phelps asked who sets the $5 permit fee and said that the commission should find out in order to revisit it. Chair Bentz said it should be stopped, and Commissioner Phelps suggested the commission try to get it raised to a point so that no one participates. I'm paraphrasing. Commissioner Kaufman jumped in and said that it would be a great use of the commission to identify an issue and update it, that is, get rid of the program. Chair Bentz commented, if we did that, it would bring firestorm, just like when the IFP was killed. Commissioner Phelps responded and said that they should ask staff to make an inquiry regarding the discussion. And shortly after that, I asked to give comment and was told to wait till the end of the meeting for procedure. Shortly after that, we went to break, and what happened was during public comment, Commissioner Kaufman stated the following, because I alleged that Commissioner Kaufman and Chair Bentz during the break had gone to a separate room. I overheard them discussing the fossil permit program. Commissioner Kaufman stated, I told Chair Bentz I was glad she said the comments that she said. She was concerned she may have said too much, i.e. the firestorm. And I said, no, I don't think so. I really want this issue to come back to the next meeting. And then she reiterated, I'm glad she brought up the things that she brought up. Today, Commissioner Kaufman said, I didn't discuss the fossil permit program with Dr. Bentz. Here's kind of the legal issue. The admittance that Chair Bentz and Commissioner Kaufman discussed the program offline during break, that is a misdemeanor. Saying today that she didn't discuss the fossil permit program with Dr. Bentz during the break is a felony under chapter 817.155. You can look that up later. So basically what you've got is Commissioner Kaufman, it would be in her best interest to clarify her comment from earlier in the meeting and basically bring it back down to the misdemeanor level as opposed to the felony level. So to give you guys a little bit more background, why do I keep coming? It's because for the last 5 years, DHR was trying to subversively, through staff, kill the fossil permit program. That's how this all started.
Shereen, you got about 10 seconds, and I'll give you a little bit over the line, so just try to wrap it up.
That's what I've got. These are the facts. You can go and listen to the recording yourself and see that these conversations did take place, which under Florida statutes is a misdemeanor.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Ream. Do we have any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting, which brings us to adjournment. Seeing no objections, motion to adjourn. The meeting is so adjourned. All right.